Gacha games want your time, attention, and money, and the love you can have for characters is a great way to do that, and Miresi probably won't be an exception, especially being a waifu game, one on the more goony side. However, there are core 4 ways I've identified that devs have curated to make players become more attached on certain characters to make us more likely to pull on them, and I've identified them as 1. Trauma, aka I can fix her, 2. Lust, aka I can f her, 3. Familiarity, she's just like me, for real, and 4. Likability, because she's just so kawaii. Of course, there's a 5th one, but I put that in parentheses, more as function, for players like me who mainly pull for the meta units, but today's focus is on the emotional aspect. However, with Miresi clearly being a relationship-based game, even having official social media shorts hinting at marriage in the game, plus, as I touched on in my last video about the story and how relationships will play a key role in the story, I think this would be a great topic to bring up, especially before the game comes out. Now, let's touch on the first type of bond method, trauma. Now, as I explained in my last video going over Miresi's story, the devs have stated each girl will have a tragic past that the player will need to sort through. No doubt using this aspect of time travel to peer into her memories. Whether we solve it or become her makeshift therapist, that's to be seen. But even as some comments in the last video have shown, it works. And people, hey, they want to get their heart broken. But that actually ties into our third point, being familiarity, as those negative memories or turmoil that those characters may experience can sometimes reflect on our own past, or what some of us may be dealing with in some variation of our own lives. I'm sure my Black and Latino viewers can relate to getting beat by the belt or chancala. What better way to relate? But jokes aside, a lot of it really is that I can save a hoe energy. Many people have no purpose in life, and that's not to be an insight.
Your life is nothing. You serve 0 purpose. You should
just being able to have that I can save her can create a goal. And that's not as an insult. Just being able to say I can save her could create a goal that we may otherwise not have. I know we're going deep with this, but I'd like to add a quote from J. Cole. Don't save her. She don't want to be saved. But yeah, obviously these girls do want to be saved because they're literally 2D waifus curated for you, the player, so you could give the devs more money. I mean, love, you know, give them more of your love. But either way, I know Nikkei was the first to use this bonding type, but for a waifu game, it very much popularized it. But I could see the drama becoming more of a consistent staple with more and more waifu games because of just how prevalent and how useful it can be. And other gacha games in the future, not just waifu games, as not only is it one of the 4 core tenets, but it's one of the more impactful ones. And next of the core 4 is lust. Now we all know lust is not love, and my Christians out there, you'll know lust is often seen as a sin. But if we break it down scientifically, it is a biological and chemical reaction. When our body feels lustful, our brain activates something called the ventral tegmental area, VTA for short. That's the same area involved in our pleasure, reward, and addiction center. And once that happens and the dopamine heightens, that's when we can really make bad decisions, whether that's going raw on the town bicycle or spending $60 on a gacha costume, both equally as awful for different reasons. However, this is where I'm gonna get way more nerdy on you guys, and I got all my sources linked in the description. But neuroscientist Dr. Helen Fisher has identified 3 forms of this love, quote unquote. Lust, aka porking vibes, 2, romantic love, and finally the third one is attachment. According to her, lust is driven by testosterone and dopamine. And yes, testosterone is most definitely a chemical present in both men.
It forcefully fucks you and chokes you. You're like,
and women. Same goes for estrogen. I mean, that's why these women could be gooning constantly, putting Love and Deep Space in the top spot of the PvP gacha earnings, because if men got crusty sods, then these women got soaking cucumbers. I mean, y'all remember when, what's the movie called? 50 Shades of Grey was out, and there were literally like soaked cucumbers left in theater seats? Yeah, these women want to freak too. Anyway. Anyways, moving on. The next type of love is romantic love, driven by dopamine, which is a feel-good hormone, serotonin, and I'm going to try to say this right, norepinephrine. I said it right that time. 2 chemicals which may not sound familiar, but I'll simplify it. Basically, when we get attracted to someone, our serotonin levels can take a dip, making us feel more attached to the person or even obsessed. And norepinephrine is related to the part of the brain related to fight or flight. So boning is definitely a top priority. I mean, biologically and chemically speaking anyways. But this type of love can create feelings of obsession and deep longing. Finally, the third type of love they stated was attachment, which is what many would consider the most quote-unquote real. The chemicals involved are oxytocin and vasopressin. Oxytocin is what many of us may be familiar with. It's a feel-good chemical that both men and women go through chemically to make them grow closer. Sex can make it raise in women in particular, though from what I found in men from the research I've done, it's actually repressed. Which, to not get too off topic, it may explain why woman infidelity can be linked more to being emotionally driven, and when a guy cheats, it's more simply for pleasure and less for the emotions involved in it. But funny enough, going even deeper into that, oxytocin isn't enough for men to really bond to their partner, and it actually gets suppressed when men have sex, and it's suppressed by none other than testosterone. That is where our pal vasopressin comes in. Testosterone can also repress vasopressin. However, research conducted by Dr. Larry Young from Emory University showed that when artificially increasing V1A receptor density in promiscuous voles, it made behavior more monogamous. Translation, it made the voles who were sleeping around want to stay with one partner. Now, voles are basically like little rat-looking creatures, and it's not a human trial, but it's still interesting nonetheless. But even taking into account how men need to typically spend a longer non-sexual time with the woman to actually build that vasopressin bond up, it begs the question, how much love can you really have for a 2D waifu past lust, past sex, if you're not even able to have that oxytocin bond with them or that skin-to-skin contact? Even looking deeper into oxytocin, I remember I'd bust nuts in my ex-girlfriend, and then I'd lay with her skin to skin. She was nice, soft, and in real time, I could damn near feel the bond for her growing. Which, off topic, sleeping naked with a girlfriend is top tier, and I would definitely recommend it. No undies, no nothing, just, you know, balls to buns. All that to say though, if lust is a starting line, that can then ascend to romantic love and then potentially deep attachment. And for a majority of players who are in touch of reality, lust is as far as it will go, not really transcending to the deeper two layers as Dr. Helen described it. But that's why the other three methods exist, and we've already gone over trauma, and that is where we go into the next two. So our third of the four types of loves that I've identified is familiarity. She just like me. She really just like me. Again, this ties into the traumatic love style, whether it be the Captain Save-A-Hose or those who feel a familiarity, even if the relationship doesn't feel right. Humans are creatures of patterns, and when we see something relatable, familiar, etc., it elicits a response in us. It's often known as attachment theory, again, tied to the way we loved or we were loved in childhood. Though, of course, being a gacha game, they won't abuse you, unless you're into that. However, another aspect that isn't as relevant is a mere exposure effect. We're often seeing them enough you can become attached. That's usually why before a character's release or their banner is up, they suddenly spring up in the narrative out of nowhere, and then you see them a bunch in the story, and you see them. So when time rolls around to pull them in the banner, you're like, yeah, you know, this character, she might be D tier on the tier list, but she's really the waifu. But with that being said, that ties into our final form of the four forms of love. But before I dive into the final form of love, I want to bring up a memory I got, a story if you will. It's off topic, but I remember seeing a clip from a talk that the creators of South Park did on writing. They talk about the crucial role of cause and effect and the role it plays in a story, as well as a core feature that stuck out to me even now, even to this day. It's better to have an interesting character than a likable character. And to that, I would agree. Except, this isn't a show. This isn't a movie, and this isn't even a normal game. This is a gacha game, where the monthly revenue PvP charts can live or die on the next banner character. So, for most parts, characters getting pulled are usually likable to some extent, even at the expense of that interestingness. And that's really interesting for a gacha game, where they're really trying to make as compelling of a narrative and characters that they can make. Well, as compelling of a live service story that you can, with no clear ending or even real stakes with any lasting character consequences or death. But moving on, a perfect example of a character not being likable enough is Crow. Damn, that's actually a really good name. Sounds like a perfect name for a main character to a book. Anyways, there's a character in Nikkei called Crow. And I don't even know if I need to say this word on YouTube. I don't think I can, but She strikes terror and puts pain in my wrist. Combine the two words. Yeah, that's a weird way of saying it, but she's not a very nice person, you know? Crow, not good at all. I mean, she literally does what her profession entails. That's not even a profession, her occupation, I guess. And here's the funny thing. I remember long ago seeing a post on the Nikkei subreddit or somewhere else with tons of upvotes saying how they despise Crow as a character and they'll never like her because she's an awful person. And my case is, yeah, she's a fucking... Like, what did you expect? Like, were they expecting her to be like Luffy? Like the same tier of pirates as that? Like not really not hurting anyone, just going around screaming, my Nakama, my Nakama. Cause like, I mean, let's be real. I don't feel any type of way about her doing this. Cause one, it's a fictional game. Two, she doesn't even got much buns or biddies or really anything. Like that shit, there's nothing there. And three, she's fucking F tier. So when are you going to use her? Probably never. All right. Let's be real. Let's be real here. But that shows it right there, though. And also a bit of my issue with trying to make all of the pullable cats likable. Because by making them all redeemable in one way or another, the story becomes flat and predictable to a certain degree. I know that was a major complaint with Genshin, how the Fatui, or this deep hidden organization, were really evil and mysterious. But then you pull Child and these other characters just to find out, hey, they're not so bad after all. $20 per pen pull isn't really as egregiously overpriced after all. Well, that's still a fucking crazy, stupid, ridiculous, overpriced ass price. But back to topic. My case is that if villains will be later pullable, they'll either explain their rationale away or have a tragic backstory. And while that's some way, and also while somewhat retconning away or explaining away their past transgressions, either someone else was behind it or something else. Now me, I personally don't care. I play a gacha game for the combat and the biddies are just the cherry on top for me. But the emotional aspect and story elements are very crucial for many players, and I would probably say a majority of players that are spending money at least, which is why I'm sure the devs incorporate it so strongly. So after finally going over all four of the potential bond types, not counting the fifth, which is just meta and only the really one I actually care about, how can this affect Miresi and other games alike? Well, do you know what an incel is? Again, stick with me here. The definition on Merriam-Webster Dictionary is this: an incel, a person, usually a man, who is or identifies as involuntarily celibate and typically expresses extreme and hostile thoughts towards those who are sexually active. Now, remove the hostility part and look at the graph. Because holy shit, 2020 did a fucking number on us and it was already getting worse. Even today, less and less men are getting their dicks wet, and parasocial relationships are becoming more and more common. Websites like Twitch, OnlyFans, Fanlies, Kick, and I'm sure even some personalized AI chatbots, all offering companionship at the cost of a single credit card swipe. But also, and if I may add, a cost to the soul to some degree. And though gacha games aren't real, there's been a rise of fictosexuals and Jesus Christ, how do I explain this? So a fictosexual is those who have romantic feelings for fictional characters. Yeah, I'm not gonna like go deep on that because it's a rabbit hole within itself, but you know, we're gonna stay on topic. And for any of you who may be familiar somewhat in the, I guess, anime space or whatever, you might already know where this conversation is heading. Because in 2018, there was a Japanese man called Akihiko Kondo who married Hatsune Miku. And Akihiko reported that he suffered from bullying at his workplace, which was a school. And he later explained the bullying was that people ignored him and he worked in the office with papers. Now, some may call him pathetic or other insights, but we have to look at the deeper roots of what led here: social isolation. A period many of us suffered in 2020 that's made this fictosexual movement more mainspread, no doubt, tied to the rise in isolation many experienced during that time. And a lot of people during the prime of their youth, when those developmental years are most impactful on needing to be around people. And even those who are older in the workplace suffered. Even touching on myself personally, I'm all for gooner gachas, goon freely, but I tend to separate my meat destruction from my games. I don't know, like, it's just something about not wanting to nut where I eat, you know? Like, I don't mind if either bricks me up, but like, I'm not trying to be editing a Miresi video and then shit gets me wanting to bust nuts. Like, shit can get me like, say, oh yeah, Tyria? Thick, get me bricked up, but like, I'd rather like, I don't know, bust in a woman.
Poke it in her motherfucking grill. She go, oh!
I want to like bust at my computer. I don't know. But even touching on the game itself and my own personal preferences, I personally love evil MCs and stories. And I've expressed my excitement in past videos about how the devs have a clear vision, storytelling-wise, gameplay-wise, mechanic-wise, audience-wise, knowing that their core audience is males. And the things that excite me the most is that the devs are staying true to their vision. And so yeah, like not evil MCs aren't going to be for everyone in books. I just like having that clear vision of knowing who you're writing for, what the audience is, and a character that sticks to their goal, as opposed to a passive character in any medium or any story. Even touching on Miresi again, the art style being something that really stands out to me. Hyula, of course, being at the helm and making thick characters, you know, different from the flat buns we usually see in gacha game or anime characters, as well as just, even though the 3D models got critiqued and rightfully so and have been improved since, it's different from the MiHoYo-esque 3D art style we've been seeing for the past 4 or 5 years, for the past 4 or 5 years now. And it's like, oh, but guys, this time it has ray tracing. But like, damn, I'm really starting to think you could take like a lot of these games characters and just swap them up and you really wouldn't be able to tell. Maybe a little bit of corrections, of course, a little bit of changes, but a lot of them can really start to blend together. So yeah, Miresi being a waifu game is clearly going to incorporate all 4 types to make you spend as much as possible. Trauma, lust, familiarity, and likability. And lust, no matter how hard they try, won't be able to transcend into love. Though, many who may have never had the touch of a woman may confuse the two. And that's no jab at anyone, just saying. And if anything, I'm excited for this game. All gacha games are predatory in a sense, not just in the sense of gacha, but even making use of that love. And I found out, like hell, I found out in a Psyche video, link a video in the description, of course, that in China, you could buy actual marriage rings to the girls in game. Brother, if I'm not like mistaken, those rings could be upwards of a couple thousand. So yeah, we've got a bit of gonna beat off the deep end if we're literally getting married to fictional characters. However, that also explains why there's such a big backlash when that relationship is quote unquote betrayed. Even the Girls Frontline 2 incident that haunts the devs to this day, aka the Raymond incident. And to keep things short, Girls Frontline 2 is a sequel to Girls Frontline 1. And between games, there was a 10-year gap. And Diane, who was a fan favorite among the Chinese audience, was based off a Chinese assault rifle. So, of course, she was a fan favorite. But during this 10-year time skip, she had a conversation with an NPC male that the audience felt was too suggestive. Now, whether people agree or not, that's up to you to decide. I see most people in the West couldn't give a flying fuck. But it also shows a type of audience that can be cultivated and curated. And those same players who will complain and even send you shit in the mail, like how the Love and Deep Space players did with their CEOs recently with this new character. Anyways, this ain't a drama channel, so I ain't gonna go into that. But yeah, that same audience who can put you at the top of the gacha charts could be the same audience that goes rabid on you if you betray their investment, betray their relationship, betray what they deem to be love. And honestly, if the devs get that backlash, that's the fault of their own, because that's the player base they're cultivating. As for me, yeah.
Just hanging around.
I'm just there for the gameplay, easy dailies, events, and a little bit of booba. I ain't hurt nobody, a little bit of booba, maybe a little bit of booty. But I'm definitely not busting nuts to it, that's for sure. I'm going to be editing multiple videos. I'm not trying to be getting hard every time I do this, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's your money and your time. I'd just say spend reasonably, and as long as it's within your limits and you're not hurting anyone, do what you want. You know, feel free to wail, because if anything, if you have that money to be able to comfortably spend it, go for it. You know, games have to make money, and I know whales are like the major contributors to gacha games a lot of times, especially if you find genuine value of the game. Do what you got to do. It's your value, and only you can decide what that is. Though 3D is definitely better than 2D. I know it was always a meme that 2D is better than 3D, 2D is better than 3D, but like, bro, like I know these game models are 3D, but like 2D can't suck your dick, but at least not yet. I mean, shit. Is it grippy though? And also, one final note, and then I'll hop off my little soapbox. But I think it's funny and interesting to think of why those girls seem to flock towards the MC in these stories. Whether that's the commander, the counselor, or the sensei. Legal issues aside, the reason is because they're better than everyone else. All right, that's an extreme way to say it, but they stand out. They got motion, they got bands, they probably look good as hell. Even if they do tend to be faceless so the players can insert themselves onto it. Maybe if you ain't getting pussy IRL, you gotta better yourself. You know, my friend would always say, I'm Jack Harlow, I'm Jack Harlow. And, you know, parasocialness aside, that was his method to confidence, and he's still with his girl to this day. But this is Miresi Lab, not self-help lab, so I'll get off my soapbox and leave it at that. I'm hyped for the game, just best to be aware of what we're going into, and it was fun to look at more of the psychology behind it. Of course, links are in the description for all my sources, and, you know, I'll try to do more research. And if any of you guys disagree with me, that's completely fine. I really appreciate you guys watching. I know this was quite the long video. This is going to be a pain to edit, so sorry if it's been like 6-7 days before the last video, but that's going to be it for me, boys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm trying to get to 100 subs so I can get in the creator program, put out more videos, and that's going to be it for me, boys. Deuces.